Hello and welcome back to Just Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and learning to dive into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and each week I'll be sharing the soul work, the stories, and the healing modalities that have helped me in the hopes that it helps you too. So during today's episode, I wanted to talk about boundaries, the toughest and honestly the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves. So boundaries are a tool for self-respect and safety. Boundaries are empowered self-care. It's a clear expression of your needs, your limits, and your values as a way to protect yourself, your energy, your time, your well-being. It's essentially you saying, this is okay for me and this is not. They are not about controlling others' behavior because you cannot control anybody else other than yourself. They are not walls, they are not limitations, they are not to shut people out, they are not ultimatums. They are not selfish, they are not cold, they are not unloving or dramatic. They are needed for our own well-being and safety. They're about taking care of ourselves with compassion and clarity. So first I want to explain the different types of boundaries that we can have. So there are about 5 or 6 main types of boundaries. There are physical boundaries. So this would be about our physical space, touch, physical needs. It could be something like, I don't want to be hugged, or I need personal space right now, that sort of thing. I apologize for the thunder, by the way, it's lightning and thundering outside. Another one would be emotional boundaries. So protecting your own emotional well-being. It could be something like, I'm not available for this type of conversation. If you're entering conversation territory you're not comfortable with. Number 3, it could be time boundaries, managing how you spend your time, like I'm not available after 9 p.m. or I'm not available on Sundays, whatever it is. Number 4, it could be mental or intellectual boundaries, respecting somebody's differing thoughts and opinions. It could be saying something to a family member like, I'm sorry, but I don't engage in topics about X, Y, and Z. Number 5, it could be material boundaries, about your possessions or your resources. It could be something like, I'm sorry, but I don't lend out my car, or I'm not going to be giving you any more money. And number 6 could be an energetic boundary, so protecting your own energy. This one is less talked about, but it is so real. Like telling somebody, I need more time to recharge, or I just need some alone time right now. I have dealt with boundaries in numerous different ways, and I'm not going to lie to you, every single time I set a boundary, I feel tremendous guilt. And that is completely normal. A lot of times, especially if we're a people pleaser, we can feel like our boundaries are pushing somebody away when that couldn't be further from the truth. When we're setting a boundary with somebody, typically, not always, but typically, it's because we love that person and we still want to keep them in our life. But in order to keep them in our life and still feel safe in our own bodies and still get what we need emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, we need to set boundaries with certain people, and that's okay. I want to give you some examples of boundaries that I've set in my own life that maybe can apply to you as well. So I love my friends, but sometimes they'll text me at 12 a.m. or 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I've said to them, like, it's okay that you text me then, but don't expect a response until the next day. You know, I'm not up at 11 o'clock. Sometimes I'll even fall asleep at 9 p.m. Do you know what I mean? So setting the expectation that, number 1, I don't always respond right away. That's kind of a boundary across the board. I don't always respond right away because sometimes I'm busy and people aren't entitled to your time just because they texted you. Like I feel like text messaging in this day and age, like because the message comes straight to us, people expect us to then respond right away. And it's like, no, just because you texted me doesn't mean you deserve my energy right now. Like I might be in the middle of something else or in the middle of work, whatever it is. And it's okay to set that boundary. So for me, it's like, okay, if you text me in the middle of the night, most likely I'm not going to respond right then, but I'll try and text you the next day, or just setting a boundary that I don't always respond right away. So another boundary I've set with people, my Sundays are untouchable. I try not to schedule anything on Sundays because it's my rest day. I will schedule all of the fun things on Saturdays or Friday nights or throughout the week, but my Sundays are for me. Unless it's a very special occasion, like sometimes Mother's Day falls on Sundays, for example, so I am going to spend some time with my mom today. But it's a very rare occasion that I actually plan something on Sundays. My Sundays are sacred to me. This is just an example. I'm not saying that your Sundays have to be your sacred day, but this is just a boundary that I've set for myself. My friends, my family, they all know I don't schedule stuff on Sundays. Another boundary that I've recently set, and this one honestly is one of the hardest ones. I have some family members who I have to love through bulletproof glass, and I do love them, but they have very hot and cold energy. Sometimes they're very nice to me, and then another time they can be extremely disrespectful, passive aggressive, and even cruel. And back in 2019, I went to visit some of my family, and I noticed that one of my aunts in particular was just the hot and cold behavior. I couldn't do it anymore. In one moment, she's calling you sweetheart, and the next moment, she's saying something so passive aggressive and fucking cruel and like sharing my personal business with the table. And I just thought to myself, I don't want you in my life anymore. And that is a boundary you are absolutely okay to set for yourself. Whether it's with a friend or a family member, somebody who's treating you with cruelty, you do not have to keep them in your life. Or you can just limit your amount of exposure with them. That is okay. I know we feel tremendous guilt when we do it. Trust me, I still feel guilt over this. But it is okay for me to love her from a distance. It is okay for me to no longer want to engage with her. I do not text her anymore. The only interaction that I really have with her now is, let's say I call my grandpa and she picks up the phone. I'll say, hi, can I please speak to my grandpa? But that's it. I do not engage with her past that because I do not want a relationship with her. She's proven to me that she is not a safe person for me. Honestly, I'm not the only one who feels like that. In my family, many family members have expressed that the hot and cold behavior is very hard to deal with. The Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde behavior is just too much. And without getting into too much extra detail, like, she has been abusive towards me at certain points in my life as well. I have a memory from childhood that's not great. She also got in my face and screamed at me after my dad died about something that was so inappropriate. My grandma, if I'm being honest, was also not a warm and kind individual to me. She was very cruel to me after my dad passed away. There was many things that she did that were very inappropriate, things that she said, outbursts in front of family that were like meant to hurt me and degrade me and like put me in my place in front of family, with things that I didn't even do wrong, but she just didn't have the emotional intelligence to sit with the fact that she had done something wrong. So anyways, there's just been a lot of things. Like, this decision did not come easily. It took me years to finally get to this place. And if I'm being honest, like, I really feel like I only keep around many of my dad's family members because I'm still in my grandpa's life. And like, I love my grandpa and I do want a relationship with him, but there are other people in my life on my dad's side of the family that I don't want a relationship with. And I think I've come to the conclusion that once my grandpa passes, I probably won't have a relationship with many of them. Like, he's the glue that's still holding it together, you know? And that's okay. It's okay for me to make that decision. There are family members on that side of the family that I wish I could be closer with. There are cousins that I adore, but it's also very hard because their parents have done things that are shitty to me. Like, there are two of my cousins that I absolutely do want to be closer with, but I don't know if that will ever happen. We just live too far away. And their parents, quite frankly, have done stuff because of what my grandma said about me and the stories she made up about me and the narratives she shared with the whole family about me. They have then treated me shitty because of that. And it's hard for me to move past that. And it's hard for me to even speak to my cousins about it because they're going to be on the side of their parents. Why would they have a need to question what their parents are telling them? So it's very hard. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. I was trying to just explain the situation a little bit more, but it's been very, very hard for me to come to that decision that I don't want to speak to that one family member. And most likely when my grandpa dies, I won't speak to a lot of them. I won't have a relationship with a lot of them. And that's okay. And that's an okay boundary for you to set for yourself if you want to limit your interactions or honestly cut somebody out of your life completely. Some people you do have to love through bulletproof glass. So those are just some examples of some really hard boundaries that I've set for myself with people. And of course, guilt has come up and continues to come up, but it's really only because I live in a family system that, what's the word I'm looking for? Allows for cruelty. My grandma, she was never a warm person to me, and she was cruel to me at many points after my dad died. And I didn't see her clearly until after my dad died. And even when I spoke to some of my family members about it, they agreed that she could be a very cruel person, but they still make excuses for her. And that's fine. That's fine. Maybe they didn't have the same experience I had with her, but it's the upholding of cruelty that's a problem for me. It's the enabling of abusive people that's a problem for me. It's hard every day. I'm not going to tell you it's not, but it's been the right decision for me. And that's what you need to keep going back to when you're setting boundaries. What is the right decision for me and my family? Not for others, for me. I know it sounds selfish, and others might see your boundaries as selfish. That's the other thing. They might call you selfish. You're not being selfish. You're trying to protect yourself the best way that you can. If others see your boundaries as selfish, that's their own problem. Quite frankly, if I set a boundary with somebody and you push back and you get defensive and you call me selfish, that is the proof that I needed that boundary was supposed to be put in place, and that boundary was absolutely necessary. Also, I wanted to talk about the difference between a boundary and a preference. So a preference is, let's say if you said something to somebody like, I don't really like it when you call me past 9 p.m. I'll probably still answer, but I don't really like it. Okay, that's a preference. A boundary would be saying something like, please do not call me past 9 p.m. I am not available past 9 p.m. If you text me past 9 p.m., I'm not going to respond to the next day. Stuff like that. It is clear, set wording and boundaries with clarity. So you set your boundaries, you communicate your boundaries, and then you enforce your boundaries if they're crossed. It's not your job to control other people, but it is your job if somebody pushes past your boundaries to then enforce your boundary. Then another question becomes, okay, if somebody's pushing past my boundaries, how can I then enforce my boundaries? So let's use the 9 p.m. thing as an example. If you tell somebody, I don't take calls past 9 p.m., but they keep calling you past 9 p.m., an enforcement of that boundary might be silencing the call. So the next day you might express something to them like, I've noticed that you continue to call me past 9 p.m., even though I've clearly stated that I don't like to take calls past 9 p.m. It's important for me to protect my time and my space, and I need for you to respect that. If this keeps happening, I might need to silence my calls or pause communication completely in the evenings. When you set a boundary and it's not being upheld, you then have to do something to enforce that boundary. And I know that seems harsh, but honestly, some people, some family members will never get the hint unless you start to enforce that boundary. Not always. We hope that family, friends, partners do hear and integrate and start to respect our boundaries. They might slip up every now and then. Maybe it's on accident. Maybe they have been withholding your boundary of not being contacted past 9 p.m., but then one day they completely forget they're going through something and they call you past 9 p.m. You could gently remind them the next day. Sometimes it's not always with malice. We do have to remember that as well, giving people grace. But if they're continually pushing past your boundary, let's say like a narcissistic family member, you do have to keep reinforcing those boundaries, and they have to have consequences for breaking that boundary. Let me give you another example. I have a friend who wants to limit her children's interactions with her mother-in-law because the mother-in-law can be very overbearing. She shows up unannounced, that sort of stuff. So a boundary that she's set is saying stuff like, you're welcome to see the kids, but you have to schedule something in advance with me. It has to be on my schedule and it has to be on our timetable. You can't just show up unannounced. And then when the mother-in-law continues to show up unannounced, the boundary then had to be, if you continue to do this, we may have to withhold how much time the kids are spending with you in general, because you can't seem to respect the boundary that we're setting for ourselves. And yes, that's going to be harsh. Yes, she's probably going to get very defensive. They're my grandkids too. I have a right to see them. They are your grandkids, but you also need to respect our boundaries. I could give you examples for days, but hopefully you're starting to get the point. And also you might Google online. I know there are tons of like forums where people are talking about setting boundaries and what they use to try and enforce those boundaries and stuff like that. Again, the hope is that the people that love us, the people that care about us and respect us and want the best for us, they will understand our boundaries because they have boundaries of their own. My mom has a boundary that I am not to call her on weekends before noon. I completely understand that. I like to sleep in as well. Everybody has boundaries. Some people don't always state their boundaries clearly, and then they start to get resentful when people aren't following the boundaries that they never outlined. Do you know what I mean? That's another thing. And hey, maybe we've done that as well. We start to get resentful of people instead of setting a healthy boundary. We assume that they're just going to know what our boundary is when they don't. They oftentimes don't know those things. So we have to become clearer with our communication. We have to become okay with communicating these things to people. And yes, guilt and shame are going to pop up. That does not mean you're doing anything wrong. It's such a natural reaction to setting healthy boundaries with the people in our lives. It doesn't make your boundary wrong. Other people's emotional reaction to your boundaries are not your responsibility. Other people have to be able to emotionally regulate, and that is not your responsibility to teach them. It's not your responsibility to manage that for them. They have to be able to do that themselves. And it's also okay if you need to revisit or revise your boundaries over time. And also, here's another thing I really want you to remember. As you start to set boundaries with people, you will start to gain more trust in yourself. More trust in your inner self, even your inner child, to know that you are watching out for you, that you are the protector of yourself, to be able to almost say to yourself, whatever happens, I've got you. Whatever happens, I am here for you. You do not need to do anything you don't want to do. You do not need to be around people you don't want to be around. You do not need to be around people who drain you, people who are cruel to you. You deserve people who are loving and respectful of the things that you need. And the people who are meant to stay in your life, they will be. They will be understanding, loving, and respectful of your boundaries. So as we end today's episode, I just want to say, if you are setting boundaries with people in your life, just know it is okay that it feels a little messy in the beginning. It's okay that it feels hard, but you deserve to protect your peace. You deserve to enforce the things that are going to bring you more peace, more clarity, more nervous system regulation. Whether that's people, places, or things that you need to hold firm boundaries with, whatever it is, you've got this and you can do this. If you have any additional questions around boundaries, please leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them in maybe another episode. Maybe we'll do an expanded episode on this because I could talk about boundaries all day. And especially with toxic family members, it is absolutely needed. Thank you so much for joining me today. And just a quick reminder about a few things. My book, Don't You Dare, is available for purchase on Amazon. We dive into what the ego mind is, as well as shadow work and healing the shadow aspects of ourselves. I also have my most loved meditation bundle available for purchase. These are my highly rated meditations over the years. You can find it in the link below. I also offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in that, please visit my website, meganshirey.com, M-E-G-A-N. It's right there, meganshirey.com. And if you enjoy these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps us to reach more people and to expand this community. And please leave us a review. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease. And until next time.